All right. I think what we need to dive into at this point now is the news that came out, and we knew this was going to happen. We knew this was happening. We knew it was coming, and this is what This is only the next step of the process. As much as I wish that there was more to this, there was some finality to it, and we could all just move on with our lives. Michigan State yesterday officially fired Mel Tucker for cause, formally completing the process. You got to complete the catch, you got to complete the firing. They sent out the notice of intent. They gave Mel Tucker some time to respond. Tucker, who was under investigation with a sexual misconduct complaint brought by Brenda Tracy, a sexual assault awareness speaker and vendor to the school. I'd like to believe that if Mel Tucker none of this would have happened, and Mel Tucker was still on the sidelines, I don't think that they're looking into trying to get out of the contract. I think they had lost some guys that makes some things questionable because some key players, and they had a little bit of a down year. But I think, and maybe Ryan would refute this claim, but I think that most Michigan State fans were still in on the idea of having Mel Tucker as the head football coach at the university. Most people, I think, were in. There's always going to be some people that hate the coach. There's people that don't like Jim Harbaugh that are Michigan fans. Ryan Day, God bless him, but there are Ohio State fans that the 49-6 isn't good enough. That is unacceptable. Now, in the statement, the university said that it had terminated Tucker's contract, quote, for his admitted and undisputed behaviors, which have brought public disrespect, contempt, and ridicule upon the university, constitutes a material breach of his agreement and moral turpitude. I've never heard moral turpitude more in my life. In fact, I don't think I'd ever heard the phrase moral turpitude until this case came out. Learn something every day, right? Michigan State suspended Tucker without payback on September 10th. The AD, Alan Haller, informed Tucker in a letter on September 18th that the university intended to fire him for cause. School opened up the investigation into Tracy's complaint back in December of 2022. There's still this ongoing, they got the ongoing saga here now with the hearing coming up in the first week of October. And the firing is going to cost Mel Tucker nearly $79 million remaining on his contract. By firing him for cause, Michigan State is attempting not to pay Tucker any of the remaining money. Heller claimed in the letter that the school had, quote, amassed a body of undisputed evidence of misconduct and warrants termination for cause. Tucker then got his attorneys on the horn. They crafted up a statement, said that this firing is unjustified for several reasons. And in a statement, September 19th, Tucker said that Michigan State does not care about my rights, the truth, or its future liability for policing its employees' private lives. Haller then said yesterday, the termination notice that Tucker's response provided a litany of excuses. Quote, simply put, Mr. Tucker's response does not provide any information that refutes or undermines the multiple grounds for termination for cause set forth in the notice. Instead, his 25-page response, which includes a 12-page letter from his attorneys and 13-page, quote, expert report, provides a litany of excuses for his inappropriate behavior while expressly admitting to the problematic conduct outlined in the notice. I think Mel Tucker's still going to fight it. I think Michigan State's going to be in the clear, and I think they're going to be able to move on from this. I really do. At some point. Ryan is on the Meyer Supercenter guest line. You can join us too. This is Ryan without a mic, being held down by the blue wall or the time-space continuum, one of the two. Good morning, Ryan.
I mean, aren't they the same thing?
The time-space continuum and the blue wall?
Yeah.
How we're able to travel back and forth in time to apply things that may have happened 60, 80, 100 years ago and apply them to today's team? Absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of moral turpitude, it sounds like turpentine, which is kind of what I want to take a bath in right now every time I hear Mel Tucker's name pop up on Twitter.
Oh, my God, I love that. I love that. I think you guys are in the clear, though. Like, he admits to everything that they could fire him for, so what's the issue here?
And I think just because it is a gray area of everything that is happening, because you're talking about a consensual relationship over the phone with text messages deleted. And so in situations like this, there's always going to be a gray area. And Tucker's going to sue. I think he will win some money. He's going to go for 79 million. I think they might rule like, hey, you get a year of your contract. You get $10 million or somewhere along that line, and just see you later.
Are you happy that this is finally coming to? I know we're not close to being done yet because there's going to be lawsuits, and those will be tiny segment days. Like, we're not going to spend, 15, 20 minutes on this or 3 hours on Mel Tucker suing. Like, are you to the point now where you just want to wipe your hands of this and get this year over with?
I will, once the bye week's over, because that's when the hearing and all the investigation will fully come out. And so once the bye week is over, I think I'll be ready to just finally all right, can focus on the team and the players. And because even last week after the game, talking to a few of the players, it seems like they are trying their hardest to be out of sight, out of mind on all of this. And, God bless those kids. And because it's like, again, it's one of these things where you want to make fun of the university and the team and stuff, but it was none of them. This is a story of one. I mean, this is it's all on Mel Tucker. So yeah, once we get through that hearing, because the lawsuit and everything, that'll happen, whether or not there's, money involved. I don't know if you'll ever find out a real figure, because since it'll be a civil case and everything, the numbers will be hidden. You'll have to FOIA request the crap out of it to try to find a settlement number.
Yeah, I hope somebody does, just so that we know. But I also hope that the courts rule that Michigan State doesn't have to settle with them. I really hope that they can clear cut wipe their hands.
Right, and that's why I think then if there is a settlement number, it will be low, just because throughout this whole process, like Tucker has changed his story. He lied about being in Florida, said he was in his home in East Lansing because he's trying to avoid saying he was on a work trip when it happened. He's changed his story up multiple times and has been combative even in the last 2 weeks when they're like, hey, here's the intent to fire. You have a week to try to present your case of why we shouldn't fire you for cause. Because it's really the only reason why we have to give you an intent, because it's written in your contract. If we're firing you for cause, we have to give you a week's notice, and you get a chance to say, hey, no, you shouldn't fire me. And even, what his lawyer him said, it was a lot of deflecting in his statements instead of trying to speak the truth. And that's one thing I can't stand, when just people in general are trying to argue a point, and instead of arguing the point, they deflect just what someone else has done and why it should be okay that they've done this. It's like, well, no, you're not making a case for yourself. You're just trying to say, well, they did it, why can't I?
Yeah, exactly. That's really well said and really well put right there, because that is what it comes down to. He said, she said. Now, I've said multiple times on this program that I still want to see what led to all of this. Like, I want to see what those conversations look like, a snippet of it at least, and to be able to kind of understand where this is coming from and how consensual this is. Because, still at the same time, like, okay, workplace, relationship within the workplace, if it's consensual, like, why did she go rogue? That's also what I want to know. Like, what was the intention here from Brenda Tracy? If by the way, and no, I'm not excusing his behavior. These are questions that I just think that somebody needs to ask. Everybody's so quick to hop on the bandwagon and hammer Mel Tucker, which is fine. I don't like the guy anyway, so go ahead and blast him all you want. But everybody's like, they all want to be these I don't know, these glorified like warriors for the good or whatever the hell you want to call it. And it's like, well, you know what? Why don't we just ask some more questions and see if we can come out with a pretty well-rounded answer? Because my biggest question in regards to this is what led Mel Tucker to believing that this was a consensual relationship? What was it that made it consensual? What was she saying to him that led him to believe that this was an a welcomed conversation or conversations to have? And then why did she flip script if she did?
And I get all that, and really it comes down to me, it's just like you're a 51-year-old married man doing that on the phone. Like, grow up.
I get that sentiment. I do get it. But I still
Like, just in that aspect of it, because it's from reading all of it, it sounds like it was a flirtatious relationship. Like, whether or not it was romantic or a friendship, like, again, that's where the gray area comes in, where it's like, I don't even know if, the two of them really know the full truth of it. So I think it's just, it all becomes this whole gray. I mean, how many times have someone in your life, have you dealt with this where you felt like, hey, this person kind of likes me, and then it's just like, oh no, they didn't at all. I misread a lot of things. Like, that's just life in general. It's just a lot of times we're not on the phone, playing with our little dinghy.
wow, that was graphic. Yeah, look, that I understand. I still got to know. I still do. Because if there's nothing there and he completely misread the situation, then yeah, then you look terrible. But if there was some bait there that she casted out and drew him in, then I need to know, like, if it takes two to tango and she's playing ball, then I need to know why, what happened, and why did she flip. That's basically. And I'm not doing any victim blaming here, folks, so spare me on that. All I'm doing is trying to figure out exactly how things went from, oh no, we were really close and this is a consensual relationship, to all of a sudden this lady's filing a complaint.
The story flipped because even throughout this whole process of, the phone call and everything, it seemed like it still hit a point where the relationship ended. The romantic side of the relationship ended, and then it turned into, okay, well, you said you were going to bring me back on campus, and then Tucker tried to cut off that business aspect of it and tried to, flex his power as the head coach, saying, we no longer need your business because you won't have a relationship with me. And that's where it turns into, that's the harassment part of the case. So I think even whether or not the consensual or non-consensual part of it, again, it's, to me, it's, out of sight, out of mind, because like it doesn't matter, because then you got your feelings hurt because you got rejected, and then you shut off a vendor to the university.
Now there is this thought, because look, I mean, Mel Tucker concludes his Michigan State career officially at 20-14, including that magical Kenneth Walker 2021 season where they were 11-2. So that'll paint the picture. Outside of that, they're what, 9-12?
And we can agree on a settlement that I think you will agree with, and the court should agree with. Just give the $79 million to Kenneth Walker.
I know he'd be a happy man, although the Lions held him to what, under 60 yards? Harlan Barnett, who's been the acting head coach, they're 0-2. They've lost by a combined score of 72-16. Now, the other thought that I've seen floated around out there is these coaching candidates that could potentially replace Mel Tucker. And a lot of people believe that because Michigan State hadn't done, Mel Tucker hadn't really done all that much to earn the $95 million, but he was 2-0 against Michigan, got the Spartans into the 2-1. But I'm talking like early on, right? But before he gets the contract, he goes 2-0, and we know that is like, that's the thing, right? If you can do that, Michigan State fans will love you forever. I think that's why there's a lot of folks out there who are very interested in Urban Meyer. But just because they went out and spent, and wrote down on a piece of paper 10 years and $95 million, I don't think that I think there's a weird sort of like belief out there that money's just readily available to go to the next person right off the rip. And I don't think that should be the case. I think that whoever they hire next needs to have a legitimate contract, and in the back of your mind, if you do well, they are willing to spend, but they can't. Everybody keeps pointing to 10 years, $95 million. I don't think they should sign another deal like that again until they absolutely know they have the right person for the program. I just don't think that money is available, and it shouldn't be available. It's not on the table.
No, but I think I think people say it's available if the right person is there. Like, you can't cry poor if all of a sudden the right, candidate pops up, someone gets fired, and it's like, well, we can't spend $10 million on a coach. It's like, you can if the right person's there. So I think it's just because I think the money is possibly available. But again, I don't know with these coaching candidates, I don't know if you just want to throw out 10 years, $95 million. Like, you're not going to give that to Mike Elko of Duke. Like, you can give him a very nice pay raise without having to pay him $10 million a year.
Yeah, it's the Elko thing is it's a hot name. We do have some coaching candidate names that we'll get into, but we'll step aside. Hour number 2.
I do have a surprise one that I've only told, I think, one person that hasn't been mentioned at all on Twitter.
Okay,
so I'll text you that.
He wants to hop in and give his coaching candidate list. All right, Ryan, what do you got on the table for us for Michigan State here?
All right, so there's the normal coaching list I think everyone's seen. It's Mike Elko from Duke. There's Chris Kleiman from Kansas State, who's already said, like, well, I'm not part of any coaching search, which, of course, you say that. It's week 5 of the season. Like, why would you be like, yes, I want this job in the middle of the season?
True.
And I think Lance Leopold from Kansas, even though he's a little older, he's 60 years old, but he's built a lot of good programs everywhere he's gone to, coming up from, I think, like the D2 level all the way to Kansas. And if you can do something like that at Kansas, it's kind of worth noticing. And then everyone has their Urban Meyer. But I feel like a coach's name that doesn't have a job right now that I haven't seen, put anywhere is Pat Fitzgerald, the former Northwestern coach.
Oh, boy.
And, like, I need someone to laugh at that name just so I can get it out of the system and off the list.
Yeah, I mean, Pat would still be at Northwestern if not for controversy. I just feel like you can't go you got to there's got to be somebody out there that isn't, in the words of the great Coach Prime, bringing his own baggage. And I don't mean by baggage players. I mean like his own off-the-field nonsense here. And I don't think I don't know. I really, you had some players come right up and defend Pat Fitzgerald. Was that just a disgruntled player that cost him his job? Is he good enough to get the program to where you want it to be? Because, like, Northwestern's only good once every 4 years anyways. I thought.
But
I really
also, like, look at the school you're at, though. You're at Northwestern. It's like, what are your resources there? You probably have stricter academics, letting kids in, than the University of Michigan, especially when it comes to athletics. Like, what would Pat Fitzgerald, what would he be as a coach if he had resources behind him and less limitations on the academics?
And more people than 12,000 that would show up to a football game. That much is for sure. Yeah. We know that State fan base.
James Franklin, preparing to go to Northwestern, said he turned all music off at practice so players could get used to the atmosphere they're about to head into.
Wow. Bold statement there. That's, talk about bulletin board.
But he was like, he goes, I hate to be rude about it, but, like, that's just the situation we're going into.
Yeah, games like that, docile crowds, like, when Mike Sainristil was talking about Nebraska, you'd much rather play with a crowd that is involved in the game. What about Mike Tressel, Wisconsin's defensive coordinator? No?
No.
You take him out all
Move
100%.
Move on from him. We don't need former assistants. We don't need Pat Narduzzi. We don't need Tressel. Just keep moving along.
All right. What about Sean Lewis, Colorado's offensive coordinator?
That I wouldn't mind. I say that's a popular name. It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, he was at Kent State, and it's really the record. It's not great, but it's like you're at Kent State. It's like you're never going to get the attention or a good enough record, I think, to get that next step up. I mean, that's why he left there to be an OC. So, like, that, again, that's a name where it's like that comes across the wire, great. A nice, fun offense. It's like the Phoenix Suns with Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire, 7 seconds or less on the.
Hey, let me throw another coordinator name at you, and you could kick this right back to me. You can punt it right back into my forehead. Brian Hartline from Ohio State.
I wouldn't mind it, but is it one of those things like if things go south with Ryan Day, are you going to lose Hartline right back to Ohio State?
That's legitimate. That's legitimate. Okay.
And so, but again, if that's what it is, like, you know what, let's have fun with it. And also, if Ohio State fans get their way and they let Ryan Day go, sign him up. I'll take 49-6 in 4 years.
Right, everybody in the country would take 49-6 in his amount of time. But
they're little brats down in Columbus.
Just unbelievable.
2 games in a row to Michigan, and the world is over because we had a glorious 20 years. It's like, welcome to the rest of the world, Ohio State. This is how life goes in football.
It is just preposterous, like how there are certain portions of fan bases, and maybe I've been a little bit guilty of this myself because I was looking for that big pop offensively from Michigan, a 50-plus point effort. We haven't seen it. They just beat everybody 31-6 because they don't play anybody. So that was a little frustrating for me. But there is a certain group of college football fans that are the expectation is so ridiculous, and the pursuit of perfection. It's so unrealistic, right? You're not going 12-0 every season. It's not going to happen. Teams lose. It's like the Lions. The Lions were going to go 17-0 this season. That wasn't going to happen. They lost in week 2. Okay, and then after week 2, we had fire Aaron Glenn, fire Dan Campbell. Brad Holmes doesn't know how to scout. He doesn't have the right players on the team. Guess what? They win the following week, and now everybody's happy again. Like, football fans are delusional to begin with, but especially in Columbus. All right, another oddball name for you I want to throw to you. Jonathan Smith from Oregon State, the Beavers. They're in the top 25. They're looking good.
No, he's a great name.
They're moving to the Mountain West.
But he's an Oregon State alum. And so I just think pulling him away from Oregon State would just be damn near impossible. So I think that's a name that I think all Michigan State fans would be like, yes, we love it. That's great. But I just think the reality is just set in for all Michigan State fans. And I think rightfully so. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, that's trying to pull Whittingham out of Utah. Like, it's just, you're not going to do it. Like, it'd be a great hire, but it's not feasible.
Last 2 for you. First one, Matt Campbell, Iowa State.
No.
Okay, I assume that. I assume that. No, don't apologize to me. They haven't been very good, so don't apologize to me. I understand.
Right, and that's what it is. Like, if Matt Campbell was hired instead of Mel Tucker, I still think it's a different story. I just think Ames has gotten the best of Matt Campbell, and I think he needs a new spot just to kind of rejuvenate himself, because it's just like, you're at Iowa State, man. Like, I think you just need something new in your life.
Yeah, that's the children of the corn. That's tough, man.
Because he's a great coach, but it's just like, look where you're at.
Yeah, tough to recruit, tough, and God bless him. But all right, I just wanted to throw that one out to you. I'll sit on the other one as we are up against the break.